For 8 years, he walked free. He attended town festivals. He shook hands with detectives. He even stood just feet away from the woman's grieving mother and offered his condolences. No one suspected him, because the only thing linking him to the crime was a single mistake so small. Investigators didn't even log it as evidence. It wasn't a fingerprint. It wasn't DNA. It wasn't a witness. It was something everyone saw, and no one questioned. For nearly a decade, that detail sat quietly in a storage box, until one detective asked a simple question: why was it there at all? This is the true crime story of how a killer almost disappeared into ordinary life, and how the smallest overlooked detail brought everything crashing down. Briar Glen, Ohio, was the kind of town where people left porch lights on more out of habit than fear. Population just under 9,000. 2 stoplights, 1 high school, 1 grocery store that hadn't changed its sign in 20 years. Crime was rare. Violent crime was almost non-existent, which is why the disappearance of 28-year-old Megan Holbrook felt unreal. Megan worked as a physical therapy assistant at Briar Glen Medical Center. She was organized, dependable, the type of person who color-coded her planner and called her parents every Sunday night without fail. She had plans, a vacation booked, a promotion pending, a life moving forward. Then one Thursday evening, she never made it home. Her car was found the next morning parked neatly along Riverbend Road, just 3 miles from town. Doors locked, purse on the passenger's seat, phone missing. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, no tire marks, just silence. And in a town built on familiarity, silence was louder than any scream. Megan left work at 6:12 p.m. Security footage showed her walking toward her car alone. She looked tired but calm. She checked her phone before unlocking the door. That was the last confirmed sighting. Her fiancé, Daniel Price, reported her missing at 11:47 p.m. He told police she never came home. He tried calling, texting, nothing. Officers searched Riverbend Road that night. It was poorly lit, surrounded by wooded patches and long stretches of farmland. Still, nothing seemed disturbed. Except one thing. On the asphalt behind Megan's vehicle, officers noticed faint chalky residue, almost like construction dust. It was brushed aside by a responding officer's boot before anyone thought to photograph it properly. They assumed it came from the roadwork happening 2 counties over. No one bagged it. No one tested it. Because at that moment, it didn't matter. Or so they thought. In cases like this, investigators start close to home. Daniel Price became the immediate focus. He had motive, statistically speaking. Most disappearances involving women were personal. Daniel cooperated fully. Phone records placed him at home all evening. Neighbors confirmed seeing his truck in the driveway. Security footage from a nearby gas station showed him buying coffee around 9 p.m. His timeline held. Detectives expanded outward. Co-workers were interviewed. No recent conflicts. An ex-boyfriend from college was questioned. He lived in Arizona. The case began to cool faster than anyone expected. Search parties combed the woods along Riverbend Road. Volunteers brought dogs. Drones were deployed. Nothing. Weeks turned into months. The chalky dust was forgotten. The missing phone was never recovered. And slowly, Briar Glen stopped talking about Megan Holbrook, at least publicly. Privately, people locked their doors for the first time in years. One name never rose to the top of the suspect list: Ethan Caldwell. Ethan lived less than half a mile from where Megan's car was found. He worked as a subcontractor for a regional construction supplier. He was polite, soft-spoken, the kind of man who kept to himself but never seemed unfriendly. Police interviewed him briefly during neighborhood canvassing. He said he hadn't seen anything unusual that night. His record was clean. He wasn't connected to Megan, at least not officially. Ethan attended Megan's candlelight vigil 6 weeks later. He stood quietly in the back. No one noticed him leave early. and no one thought to ask why a construction subcontractor had been driving through Riverbend Road that night. Because Ethan didn't stand out. And in Briar Glen, standing out was the only way to be remembered. By year 2, Megan's disappearance was officially classified as a cold case. Evidence boxes were labeled and shelved. Detectives rotated assignments. Daniel eventually moved out of town. Life in Briar Glen resumed its predictable rhythm. Ethan Caldwell bought a newer truck. He started dating. He volunteered at a local youth baseball league. He built a reputation. 8 years passed, and then something happened no one expected. A new detective transferred into Briar Glen PD. Detective Laura Vance had a reputation for reopening cold cases, not by chasing suspects, but by questioning assumptions. Her philosophy was simple. If something seems ordinary, look at it again. Megan Hallbrook's file caught her attention within her first week, not because of what was in it, but because of what wasn't. Laura reviewed every photograph, every transcript, every inventory log. Then she noticed a sentence buried in the initial report. Unidentified chalk-like residue observed near rear of vehicle. No lab analysis. No follow-up. Just one line. Laura requested archived samples from Riverbend Road maintenance records. There had been no active construction within 15 miles that week, which meant the dust didn't belong there. She sent preserved scrapings from Megan's tire tread, overlooked for years, to a forensic lab. The result came back 2 weeks later. It wasn't road dust. It was industrial-grade gypsum compound, used primarily in drywall finishing. Laura pulled contractor records for Briar Glen from 8 years earlier. One name matched: Ethan Caldwell. Laura reconstructed Ethan's movements that night. Cell tower pings placed him near Riverbend Road at 6:47 p.m. He had told investigators he was home by 6:30. She subpoenaed archived payroll logs. Ethan had been finishing a drywall project that afternoon, transporting supplies in his truck. Gypsum compound. Chalky residue. She brought him in for questioning again. Ethan remained calm. But when Laura mentioned the lab results, his composure shifted, just slightly. He asked how they found that. Not if they were sure. How? That was enough. Laura requested a warrant to search Ethan's property. In his garage, beneath sealed containers of tools and paint, they found something else. A phone. Damaged, but not destroyed. Forensic technicians recovered partial data from the phone. It was Megan's. Location history showed a stop at Ethan's residence the night she vanished. Investigators pieced it together. Ethan had staged a minor roadside emergency near Riverbend Road. Megan stopped to help. He used his work vehicle to block passing traffic briefly. He had planned carefully. What he didn't plan for was the gypsum dust, transferred from his truck bed to the pavement, transferred from the pavement to her tires, transferred into evidence storage for 8 silent years. When confronted with the recovered phone data, Ethan's silence finally cracked. Ethan confessed after 11 hours of questioning. He admitted targeting Megan because she was predictable. He believed a small town meant small investigations. He believed he had erased every trace. He underestimated one thing: time. Because time doesn't destroy evidence. It preserves it. Megan's remains were eventually recovered in a wooded ravine outside county limits. Her family finally had answers, but answers didn't return 8 stolen years. Ethan Caldwell was sentenced to life without parole. In court, he showed little emotion. But Briar Glen did. The town that once trusted silence now questioned it. Detective Laura Vance later spoke at a community forum. She said something that stayed with many. Justice doesn't always disappear. Sometimes it waits for someone patient enough to notice what doesn't fit. A thin layer of dust. Ignored. Unbagged. Almost forgotten. He almost escaped forever. Almost. And sometimes, in small towns, almost is the most dangerous word of all.